Welcome to Homeschooling for Spirituality. The Flow is a delightful mix of insight, divine inspiration, and humor, where wisdom meets earthiness to help your ongoing spiritual growth and transformation. Follow the flow of enlightenment and explore everything spiritual through the deepest self-inquiry, as student Lisa Berry asks Master Spiritual Teacher G.P. Walsh the kinds of questions you would ask an elder, a wise man, or a sage, and receive direct, simple, comprehensive, and deeply human lessons and teachings. From transcending the experience of separation, releasing old conditioned patterns and wounds, and alleviating suffering, to demystifying esoteric practices and revealing one's true purpose and innate freedom. Welcome to the flow of enlightenment. Transformation is all there is.
Boy, oh boy, guys, we are on a transformation path today. Hello, GP. We're here on the flow of enlightenment.
Hello, Lisa.
Oh, my goodness. I was laughing when I was listening to that because today we are definitely going to be, I'm going to be asking questions that shed light, and the reason why I'm laughing is because you got me on this whole thing this week about, am I the reflection or am I the light? Do I have light? So today's show, you guys, we're welcoming you to call in with your questions so that GP can shed light here, because this is the question. Have we stopped asking, are we the reflection of light, or is the light in us? Like chicken or the egg? You know, my favorite thing, GP. So could we start with that? And it was, by the way, it was you with your beautiful story and relating story about how the moon, I'll let you tell the moon story, but when you told me the thing about the moon, I just got stopped in my tracks, and I thought, here's my world, being rocked again. I know what's neither up nor down.
Well, yeah, the moon is purely reflection. I mean, the moon's just a big rock in the sky. It emanates no light. It has no life. It has almost no atmosphere. It has very little gravity. I mean, it's basically a rock, right? Just kind of orbiting around us. But because its surface is reflective, it reflects the light of the sun, but it has none of its own. And when we see, the moon going through its phases, it's actually an eclipse, right? At the full moon, the Earth is not. It's not in the Earth's shadow, so we see this big, beautiful orb. But through the month, we watch it, fade down to almost nothing, and then we have the new moon, which comes back, which is all simply its relationship to the sun. Now, there's, in New Thought churches, which kind of goes back to the beginning of the 20th century, a little bit into actually the end of the 19th century. Yeah. There was the idea. It was a big step forward for traditional Christianity, which is all just about the relationship, God being the ultimate other, and your entire relationship with God was one of obedience. Basically, it was a law. You had to conform to certain things and accept certain principles. So there was this huge gap, which was the dominant idea really at the time, still is. But this other idea emerged, which is man as the reflection of God, the image and likeness of God. Yes. Right? Yes. And that's an idea still held in the New Thought churches, and so the reflection, of course, would be absolutely an absolute duplication of the original. So that's a huge step forward, right? I'm not this miserable sinner. I'm actually the image of God made manifest. But it still has at its roots a duality. There's still a God and other. That you're some kind of entity. You're some kind of separated being. And of course, the reflection is always just a portion, right? If you look up in the night sky and you look at the moon, and it's incredible, right? It's beautiful. It can be so bright, it illumines things. We write songs about it. We fall in love under it, right?
Yes, by the light.
Yes, it's totally wonderful. And we think of the moon is sitting there in all of this darkness. And of course we only see it because of the darkness. Because when the sun's out, we don't see it. We don't pay any attention to it, even though it's there. You notice it every now and then, but it seems quite insignificant, right, in the presence of the sun. But at night, this beautiful glowing orb, it's been worshipped as a goddess and the like. But the reality is if you look around where it appears to be dark, that darkness is filled with light. It's simply not being reflected.
Right.
Yes. It's not empty. It's not actually dark. It's filled to the brim with light.
Yes. Like that's
but
such
there's nothing reflecting it.
And that's such a tricky thing to, like, just right there, like, I almost need to pause. Like, I get that and I know it, but then I try to relate, I guess, because I think, wait a second, it's not dark emptiness, which is what we read, what we're told, what we think of vacuums and black holes and darkness. And then to think that there's light fills up everywhere, just like I'm going to get there, but I am going to go to that. It's like, so do we have light in us? We just need to have it reflected. So I'll get there soon, but to continue where we're saying that, yes, we need, not that we need, but in order to see the light or see the object, it needs to be reflecting light?
Yes. If it's not reflected, you don't see anything. It appears as though there's nothing there. And if the totality of light is expressed. Imagine if all of that light was seen, not expressed. There'd never be any dark. There'd never be any contrast, which means we still would not see anything, right? What allows us to actually have the experience of anything at all is the light is reflected in portion. Part of it is reflective of it, part of it is absorbed, right? And without that, there is no form. We would not see anything. If everything was blue, we wouldn't even know what blue was.
Right, yes. There would be no distinction. Right, not contrast, but distinction, yes.
But light, in its purity, in its wholeness, is absolutely invisible. Can't be seen. Now that's mysterious. That's totally mysterious. That which makes everything possible to see itself cannot be seen. Yes. And if that isn't a perfect metaphor for consciousness, I don't know what is. I mean, this is the reality being made manifest in form, right? Light is invisible, as is consciousness, right? So the question then is, am I simply reflecting the light? Or am I that light? Well, it depends on what you think the origin of the light is. Light has always been, throughout the history of spiritual teaching and insight, it has always been a metaphor for consciousness, because it is the light in which something is seen. And even if the light is here, and there's no consciousness to see it, nothing is seen. It's dark. There's nothing there.
There's no fear.
Consciousness is absolutely required at all times. And so the true light in which anything is seen is actually consciousness. The problem arises when we think of God as the other.
Oh. Wait, hold on. Wait. The true light that is actually being seen, is pure consciousness.
It's pure consciousness.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay, wait. Everybody listening right now is hearing me experience this at this moment. And so when people make the comment, like, oh, you're such a bright light, oh, we see the light in you, oh, I just love your light. I'm going to go ask this question here as a student. Is that what they're saying is that they are witnessing, experiencing perhaps that other persons that they're saying that about, their enlightenment, their raised consciousness, their illuminated access to consciousness?
They're seeing the reflection. Because consciousness in its wholeness, just like light, can't be seen.
Oh, gosh,
But when it manifests itself as intelligence or creativity or love and compassion or any quality whatsoever, right? There's more to us than creativity. So creativity is a reflection of consciousness, as is love, as compassion, as is wisdom. All of these are various qualities emanating from that which is beyond any kind of categorization or knowing. It is the pure light. Consciousness is the pure light. And everything we experience is but its perfume. Right? It's like you can smell the flower, but you can't find the flower.
Right. Yes, yes. And that was so interesting that you said it is reflected. So someone who is operating from ego, they perhaps could not see the reflection of their consciousness in another, because maybe somebody's out there saying, you know what, they're a bad person and I hate them and they're no good and let's kill them and they're not adding to society. So, let's just, a lot of ego, right? Or they're better, or the other way, like that person's so much better and I'm nothing. If they're operating from that place, will that prevent them from having their consciousness reflected in someone else? Like, they just wouldn't be able to see the light. They wouldn't be able to see the light in others because they're not operating from their consciousness.
Well, you can't help but see the light. It's everywhere, right? But you won't recognize it for what it is. The ego doesn't produce anything, right? It's like the world's worst employee. It just collects a paycheck but never actually contributes.
That's awesome.
Right? It's just there in the meetings to take credit for things it never did. Right?
Oh, sneaky.
Very. I like the metaphor of the circus clown, right? And the acrobats are performing these feats of great daring without a net, and they finish, and the crowd jumps to its feet for a standing ovation, and the clowns run out and start taking the bow. That's the ego.
Yes.
So it produces nothing, right? It's all after the fact. So, but the idea that somehow this light belongs to me, right? Yeah. That is the ego that will block it. Right, that's a cloud in the sky. You can't see the sun when there's a cloud in the way, and the belief in the ego, that is the belief in yourself as a separate self, is the cloud that blocks us from seeing the true nature of consciousness. We think of it as some personal possession. So instead of seeing, compassion or creativity as a universal quality, as the nature of consciousness itself, which means it's the nature of all beings. It's seen as a personal possession. So now I'm creative and you're not. Right? Or, gee, I'm just not creative at all. That guy's really creative. He deserves that. That is the ego trying to possess something it doesn't actually possess. It doesn't possess the light. It's like the flower taking credit for the color. It can't. The color doesn't belong to the flower. It belongs to light.
Okay, that one. See, normally, GP, I feel like that would be a hard sell. I'm thinking, okay, if I was to decide, you know what, today I'm going to go in the world and I'm going to just tell people from now on, like, just walk and just see what the response is, to say that color does not belong to that flower. It belongs to the light. I think that would be a hard sell. Like, I really do.
Especially in a nursery.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I don't think they'd want you there. Yeah.
Isn't that flower beautiful?
It doesn't diminish. It doesn't diminish the beauty of the flower, but it makes you realize the beauty of the flower is a reflection of the light of consciousness.
And is that where they say the beauty is in the eye of the beholder? It's the reflecting witnesser.
Yeah. If you happen to be someone who manifests a lot of creativity or a lot of ingenuity or something like that, it's a beautiful thing to see. If you take it as if it's a personal possession, you run the risk of blocking it. You're certainly going to limit it, because our sense of being a personal being is limited by nature. But if you return it back to its source, you find the illimitable nature of it. Now there's no boundaries. There's no restrictions on creativity. Everything is available to you. But when it becomes a personal possession, it will, from our perception of it and our experience of it, put a limit on it. There isn't a limit on it, but the limit will be on our experience of it. We'll hit a wall. We won't go any further.
Okay, that actually is where I want to stop that when I'm going, because that was a big one. Personal possession, will limit us, not because it has a limit, but it will limit our experience of it. So I'm gonna just have you stop there, because what I do is invite people to ask their questions just before we go to commercial break. And you guys, right now, I feel like if I had the moment to stop, I could write down 10 questions. But what I would love to do when we come back is to ask GP, yes, about the limits, and really highlight how, or help us to see where we are placing those limits and how we can do a little better. I might even ask GP to do a meditation. We don't know here, but I'll invite you to ask your questions, and please do so by calling in to the station here. You can ask your question live, which is area code 202-570-7057. So 202-570-7057. Call in after or during the commercial break. We'll put you in the queue. And GP, I really find this fascinating, because when just that whole thing right there about, I think a lot of people are feeling limited, and as we go into the new year, we want to open that up. So there's no limits for 2021.
There weren't any in 2020, but we made them anyway.
That's right. See how wonderful that is? Okay, everybody. Right back after the commercials with any of your questions. Please call in. We look forward to hearing them from you.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me the Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
I'm so not good enough. Fail. They'll judge me. I'm afraid others it's already been done.
Who are you not to fully express who you are, to be your warrior of light and do business from your fierce, aligned energy? I'm Rosalind Fung, host of Activate Your Soulgasmic Business here on OMTimes Radio. Let's get your business turned on to the next level. I invite you to hop on a business soul alignment discovery call with me at rosalindfung.com, and let's monetize in your soul mission. Go to ROSALYN F as in fun, UNG.com.
I am Fidel Nsombo. I was born in a city called the Bukavu in the Congo. We were a loving family, and then, boom, everything that I had disappeared in a single day. People think that when you are a refugee and they resettle you to America, and all your problems are done. They don't understand that that's the beginning of everything. I was not born a refugee. I was made one.
It's time we welcome refugee families with open arms. Learn more at embracerefugees.org, brought to you by the Ad Council.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We are here, the flow of enlightenment. And it is a flow. I can feel it every week that we have these shows at GP. Like, it just flows. There's never an end. There's never a start. I couldn't even pick if one episode or show that we've done is the start or the end. It's just a flow. It all shows up.
Yes, it's endless.
When they say a student for life, they really do mean this. It's so interesting. Where I I feel like that the limits is what I do want to come up. I think because, this is something perception in my own world. I feel like we often will even put a limit using light. Okay, well, crack of dawn, let's start the day. And then, it's nightfall. We're falling down. It's over. Like, there's so many words around and feelings and perceptions that we really take it to the extreme. And also what is reflected to us, because it's all about perception. So going back to the limits, there's something that I wrote down that you said earlier this week, and I'm going to pull it out and then we can kind of go from there. But where did I just have this? Yes. We talked about the quality of the image we hold of ourselves is what will mold all of our perceptions. And so can you speak to that and how limits and how we limit ourselves, and because of that, perceive the image and the quality of the image and this reflection and light, and does it matter what, like, the light source is always pure? Is it only about the surface of which it's reflecting? Maybe we want a nicer quality reflective surface, or is it always in us?
Yes. Well, you can't limit the infinite, right? You just can't do it. You can certainly limit your experience of it, and we limit our experience through our perceptions, and our perceptions are driven by our sense of identity, which is the mother of all beliefs. Whatever you think, you cannot experience anything that is not within the confines of the beliefs you hold about yourself. You simply won't let it in. You train the entire nervous system to only let that in and exclude everything else, which it will dutifully do. And so it seems to be externally, objectively confirming your limitations. But in fact, all it's doing is creating a perception of the world, so what you experience conforms to what you believed in the first place. It all starts with what you believe about yourself. And what you believe about yourself goes all the way back to childhood and your conditioning and your experience and who you had to become in order to survive within your particular environment. That makes the foundation of the sense of identity. But there's, in every single one of us, the underlying assumption that I am limited. I am this body. I am mortal. The destiny of the body is my destiny, and I'm confined in it, and there's nothing I can do about it. And maybe some point I'll be able to transcend the body and all that. But it's all creation of the mind. None of it's actually true. You don't need to transcend the body in the sense of getting out of it. You simply need to let go of what you think you are. In Zen, they say, don't seek enlightenment, just drop your opinions.
Yes, I love that. And it's so hard. Well, I say it's so hard, and many will agree, maybe that's just a belief. Is that a belief that it's hard to drop opinions?
Well, it isn't, except for the fact that we don't realize they are. We take them as truth. And if I take them as truth, I don't see any reason to drop them. I never question them, right? And we have to also bear in mind that this sense of identity, which has evolved over time and isn't consistent, has been it's not just a thought. When I say it's a sense of who you are, it's not just a thought. It has been completely embodied in the entire nervous system. So the nervous system is acting as if that is who you are. It assumes that is who you are. You've practiced that part well. You've rehearsed it to the point where you know all your lines by heart. And it happens automatically. Just like when we learned to talk, right? It took a while for us to get the mouth movements and stuff. Now you don't think about it at all. Yeah. Right? Or riding a bike, or any motor skill you've learned is a clear example of something that it gets repeated enough, the body goes, right, okay, this has got to be automatic. It takes it out of the realm of the conscious, throws it into the realm of the subconscious, so it just happens automatically, and boom, it's done. Now, your self-image is the same way. It gets implemented in every single cell in your body. Yeah. And that's why we may have an insight about ourselves. Oh, I'm more than that. And you're, ever since the 80s and the birth of the self-help movement and the consciousness movement and the like, people have been questioning limitations, right? A really, really good thing. But we've only been doing it at the level of the mind. And so I question that limitation, but I find I can't implement it, and everything works against me. Well, why?
Right.
Why? Because your system has been programmed to act in exactly the opposite way, and you just having a nice little thought isn't going to do much about that. It takes a completely different process to retrain the nervous system in line with who you really are. But that means first you have to discover who you really are. Secondly, you have to discover how the nervous system works and how it implements who you are not. So you stop fighting it, and you begin to bring it very gently and compassionately into a different way of being. This is where it gets the enlightenment goes from your head down into your heart. So it goes from being thought to being felt, and then it sinks into the whole body. It goes from being felt to being your actual life.
I love how beautiful you made that, especially the thought to felt to being. And I think that's the thought, and we can use as the questioning, that's self-inquiry. The implementing, I don't know, well, felt, then you feel it, and then you can implement it because that's the being, and that's the reprogramming. And you actually kind of answered a question that I didn't get to ask, which is good. But the other day, I can't remember when I was witnessing another person becoming very upset with a comment that was made on Facebook, and them getting very riled up and excited that, oh, just wait till they find out how wrong they are, and I was right, and and when going through that, and it was quite a bit of energy around it, and I sat there, and it kind of actually, like, my little heart gets hurt when I hear that. I think, well, yeah, but they believe that they are right just as much as you believe you're right. So, in a neat way, you're both very passionate. You're both programmed as passionately as each other, but then that thing comes in that we want to get somebody on our side, on our team. And does it even matter anymore about being right? Why does the tribe want everybody else to be on their team and not acknowledge that what the other person is doing is the exact same? They're reflecting their beliefs in the same level of belief and passion as they are. And there's no, why are we lacking that recognition of reflection of connection there?
Well, the short answer is ignorance. And it is, we cling to beliefs because we identify with those beliefs. And anything that comes along and challenges those, we take it as if it's actually a personal attack.
Yeah.
And we can even take it as if it is a physical attack on us.
Yes.
I mean, the ego has become so intertwined in the nervous system that when somebody insults you, it feels as if you are personally being attacked. You watch people really get into fisticuffs or bar brawls over a stupid comment somebody makes. Right?
Well, look how much your mama jokes have taken. Yeah.
I mean, it's but this is the way it works. We identify with our tribe, right? And at a time there was a certain necessity of that. Things were difficult. Life was not easy. Success was not guaranteed. The Bushmen of the plains, their life expectancy was about the same as ours, about 72 years. But that's only if they made it to the age of 15.
Oh.
If they make it to the age of 15, they would live to 72, but the mortality rate below that was extremely high. Life was not easy, right?
Oh.
Because you're just having to respond to the environment. If the food's there, you live. If it's not, you die. And every winter, about half of the tribe would die. So, as any kind of pack animal, right? It works that learns to work in groups. The group becomes all important. Now, that's no big deal if there's a bunch of little packs of groups wandering around so much land they very rarely run into each other, right?
Yeah.
But what happens if they do, and they have to start competing for the same essential resources? Well, primitively speaking, there's only so much, and somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. One can understand that. But then it gets intellectualized. The ego comes on. Right? And now it becomes not just a matter of survival, but a matter of status. So now look, some guy who's worth $100 billion. What in the world do they need more for? They have no need for it, right?
No.
It is pure ego. It is pure status. And that becomes insatiable, right? And so the ego has become intertwined with our safety mechanism. So my beliefs become my identity. My sense of identity is a collection of my personal things that I've picked up along the way, but it's laid on a foundation of your cultural enculturation. Right? What you were taught by your parents is true. And our parents all taught, these people are good, these people are bad, inevitably, right? If I believe this is true and somebody else doesn't, well, I'm right, they're wrong. And that sense of I'm right gives one two things, a sense of safety and a sense of moral superiority. And if it's challenged enough, they will kill for it, as we can see. It's happening all over the world.
Yes. Just so I want to clarify on that one, the ego being intertwined with that nervous system, when you mentioned about that safety thing, is it when our ego has this perception of who we are, the identity, the image, because I know it doesn't do anything, because we learned that it's collecting that paycheck, we're not doing anything. Is it the ego that gets threatened for safety, or does our consciousness get threatened for safety, or is it the ego that's threatened?
Well, consciousness can't be. Consciousness can't be threatened. It's formless and immortal. You can't threaten it. It's the fact we're not identified with ourselves as consciousness. We're identified ourselves with the body, which is vulnerable. Right?
Okay. So safety is
and the ego and the body. Yes, and safety is very natural to the energy, so it's natural to the body. But when it gets entwined with the ego, it serves the interests of the ego. It's defending the ego as if the body was being threatened, and it isn't.
Oh, right. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay.
That's how it got intertwined.
I have to go back and listen to your archetypes of consciousness, because I know that I'm getting it more so because I've done that. I've listened to that, and I have to tell everybody right now that is an incredible course. Even if you do the intro, it's a free one. You have to, and that's one. Oh, that one's an easy one. I'm going to send everybody there right now. This is a spur of the moment fun thing. Go to www.gpwalsh.com //chakras. Is it with the S? I can't remember every time I say that. Chakras.
C-H-A-K, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Chakras, yeah.
Chakras, yes, with the S at the end. Because what you just said, because the reason why that question came up was where safety, a lot of people are feeling unsafe, and it could be everything from, the body feeling unsafe, but their status, they're feeling insecure about unsafe and not able to provide income and be the breadwinner, or insecure because they've gained that 20 pounds during the COVID 20-pound thing that they were, I can't remember what they call it, but their body image is now different. So but I see what you're saying now, because when we take those very perceptions and identity and it gets intertwined with our nervous system, believing that we are now in danger of insults, judgment, not being accepted, then we truly respond as if we are being attacked physically.
Yes. And that's why you'll see people get so emotional when somebody makes a comment that they really totally disagree with. It represents a completely different value system from their own. It feels like a personal threat. It's a goddamn Facebook post. I mean, where's the threat?
Yes, exactly.
You don't even know who they are.
This is so helpful, quite honestly, GP. Like, I'm sitting here thinking of all the things like I'm going through people I know and myself and whoever, because people will mention what they're upset by. It's funny, and I don't know if we'll start just before the commercial break. But something you just said there, it's about their value system, and we have that. When I first, I was probably a teenager. I'm trying to go way back here, and I remember having a fight with my boyfriend or something, and going to my mom and dad and trying to feel better, heartache, and I remember my parents or coaches and things like that, psychologists, psychiatrists, saying, you have to know and understand your value system, and then when you know your own value system, your core values, then if it doesn't align or match with somebody else's, or you can see where there could be problems if they conflict. Is that still a helpful thing to be aware of our own value systems, or should we be abandoning our value systems and not be attached?
Well, you can't. We have to learn how to evaluate things. We have to learn where value really lies. Most of the time, our values have been inherited from our culture, and they're not been a conscious choice that we've made. There's been no real discrimination in it. We just kind of accepted it, or we've totally rejected it. I mean, I was a total rebel, right? Whatever they were for, I was against. Right?
Yeah,
right? Now I was no more. I was no more free. I was no more free, right? Because I was still governed by the same thing, just in contrary to it. And it took a while to figure that all out. But one has to discover. There's a values, to me, there are values that are absolute. And this is what becomes tough. They're not a matter of opinion. I mean, like it or not, Mozart is better than Justin Bieber. That's not a matter of opinion.
Yes.
Now, you may be a 14-year-old girl and like Justin Bieber better and have no idea, not the least bit interested in Mozart. But that doesn't change the fact that just there is a discernment of quality and of value that is an absolute. It is not a matter of opinion. In our world, we want to reduce everything to an opinion, and so some pop star or Kim Kardashian is worth more than Picasso. What? I mean, and more people appreciate that kind of thing, which is just, we don't really, the value system, when you just inherit it from the culture, it's not really yours, and it hasn't been questioned. What do you actually value? Well, we can get closer by getting closer to ourselves and comparing two things and say, what do I like more? What do I prefer more? What do I want to be with more? And in relationships, it's what kind of character do I want? What do my date want to be like? What kind of interactions do I want to have? And that's all well and good. That's certainly a big step ahead, rather than just accepting because you were programmed to accept it. But ultimately, we want to go beyond our opinions about things and what are simply matters of convenience or what I happen to like now, because as everyone knows, those shift. Those change. I don't like the same things I liked when I was 20. Good God, no. Right? Or even when I was 50. Right? So those are going to shift, which is what relationships suffer from, is those things do shift. So how do you find a value that isn't going to shift? Right? This is what we're searching for. We're searching for truth. We want the truth, but then when we grab it, we think we have it, right? And then we want to force everybody into that position. So I feel safe. Like, oh yeah, I do have the truth. See, I got it. No, the truth holds all the cards, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
We have to conform to it, not the other way around. And the highest attainment a human being can aspire to is the recognition of a truth that is true whether I believe it or not. That's an absolute. And then you conform yourself to it. That is true spirituality.
I love that. And that's a perfect place to go to commercial, knowing that the absolute truth is the truth whether I believe it or not. So come on back to the Flow of Enlightenment for some more truth with G.P. Walsh and myself, Lisa Berry. We'll see you in a minute.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
These are the sounds of a dinner that almost didn't happen. A dinner now served, thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Sorry. Woo, welcome back, everybody. Doesn't that sound just bring you back right into it? Like it's like a super long snap. There you go. Well, welcome here. Oh, we're chatting away about, my goodness, well, it's always about the truth. And we are welcoming your questions. Maybe you would like some clarity on how do you even begin asking what the truth really is and who you are. So please call in at 202-570-7057. And if you don't catch us this show, then we are inviting you to email us with your questions. So it's questions@gpwalsh.com. Super easy. You could write them in, and we will have a look at them and respond to you, and then get to talk about them on air here. So we love doing that. And while I'm on the roll here, I would love to just honor and thank and say we're absolutely appreciative of the support that Suzanne Lavoie has given us here on the Flow of Enlightenment. She loves, experiences as well, and her company is High Rise Tourism, and it helps you live and embrace life to the fullest by constantly constructing personal high rises within your spiritual, physical, and mental destination. So please, everybody, check out highrisetourism.com, and that's with Suzanne if you want to connect with her on Facebook. Experiences, my gosh. You know what, sometimes, GP, I just want to boil it all down and go, my God, why are we here? Just ask that whole question. If we're the light and we're not the light, but we're flexing and we're saying, oh my gosh, what the Yankee Doodle are we doing here at all? Why do we do this? Is there even an answer?
Well, to be happy. To experience happiness, right? Yeah. The absolute, the light, the character and vastness and subtlety and nuance and variation of the light is only seen when it's reflected. Otherwise it's dark, it's empty, right? It's empty and yet it's full, but nobody knows it's full, nobody sees it. I mean, if love was never expressed in relationship or action, it would be as if it didn't exist. Yes, the potential for it would be there, but it would remain unknown, right? It's like music without a song, right? The potential is always there, but if nobody's singing, what do you hear? I mean, this is what it is not an either or. Right? The absolute is not just the emptiness. It is the emptiness manifest as form. You can't separate the two. Yeah. And so what we call our human lives are simply the light revealing itself and its infinite character. And there's no limit on what being can be and the experience of its own being. And that's really what it's all about. It's God experiencing herself.
That
and that
takes
the
form
of individual people, Yes, it is. It's beautiful and profound and heavy and amazing, right? That this isn't purposeless. Right? It is not serving a purpose. Right? It is simply serving the nature of the infinite. And the nature of the infinite is not just this vast emptiness. The nature, that empty nature, or light, in Buddhism they refer to it as emptiness or shunyata. And the example of the light is a perfect example of that. The light all by itself, in its purest form, is completely empty. Right? The universe is filled with light. The sky is filled with light. And yet it's empty. Right? Because it is unexpressed. It is unreflected. And our human life is God experiencing herself. The universe is the body of God, if you want to put it that way.
Oh, that was beautiful too. And I was going to ask is, can we replace the word light with love when you said light is only seen when it is reflected? Is that true? Is that a truth that love is only seen when it is reflected?
Of course. Of course. When it's not reflected, it's just neutral or indifferent, right? Yeah. I mean, what is love if it's not expressed? And it could be expressed in a million different ways. It could be romantic love, it could be familial love, it could be friendship, it could be the love of art, the love of your career. I love my job, I love my car, right? We use the same word because it's the same thing. It's different variations. It's different colors of the rainbow. It's different manifestation of exactly the same principle. You can call it light. You can call it love. You can call it intelligence. You can call it soul. You can call it the I am. You can call it Buddha nature. It's all the same. They're different words for the same thing. The thing itself is completely unknowable, inconceivable, irreducible, indivisible, beyond what can possibly ever be described. How can you describe emptiness? How do you describe silence?
Yes. That's amazing. I like that one. That's helpful. And neat that you just said that about different words to describe the same thing, the same message, the same essence. And so, sorry, this is just working out so perfectly that I had to do this. Tomorrow, you have an event which is literally doing that, taking ways that we've tried to describe the same thing, but in different stories, different ways. And I'm going to do this right now. The Christian Mystic is an event that you put on, and you're putting on tomorrow, which is Wednesday the 30th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to let you guys know how you can get your ticket to come. There's a ticket? Yeah, I guess you buy tickets. Get your ticket. Because
Step right up.
Yeah. I almost heard the music in the background there.
Yeah.
But that's what it is that we've heard stories, we've heard different people share their perception of their best way at their time and their environment and what they've heard and seen based on that whole thing, try to express something that maybe we're almost getting it. We're almost getting the essence. We know there's a message in there, but maybe we don't like the way they told the story. Maybe, and specifically the Christian Mystic, you are talking about Bible stories that we have heard, that we've read, and helping us to hear, or you're reflecting. There we go. You're helping to reflect the essence of the message that should be coming through with that light and love, and not with the ego that sometimes I think the Bible stories that they've told them in, or that we're receiving them in. Did I do that okay?
It's very good. The biblical stories, almost none of which are actually historical. There's no evidence for almost any of it, right? Any archaeological corroborating evidence that said this actually happened. And so they were stories. They were intended as stories, and stories always give culture they inform the culture, they give it a cultural identity. But if they're really true myths, they also point towards the transcendent. But as we were talking before, how the culture kind of, these are my beliefs and this is the truth. The culture tries to take its myths, turn it into historical fact, to give it an authority it doesn't really have, for the culture, right? And this is what's happened, ever since the Roman Empire founded the Christian religion in 325 AD. It has been a tool of empire. It has been defining culture. Had nothing to do with spirituality. That was never its intention. So it collected a whole bunch of stuff together. The Bible is just a bunch of stories and myths and legends that have been passed around. That was edited into a book to make it look as if it was a continuing narrative, and it's not. It is literally a random collection of stories that was tried to make it look like as if it was a book. It's like taking 10,000 of your famous fiction books, your favorite fiction books, right, at a Barnes and Noble, grabbing a couple pages here out of each of them and sticking them all together and trying to make a book. That's what it is.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that sounds like a mess.
Right?
Brain mess.
But then somebody comes along and says, "Oh, this is what it means," and it's just been a powerful force of domination, and the means of domination has been fear, this threat of eternal punishment. That God is a nasty ass, and you better watch what you're doing, or you'll not just suffer for a little bit, you'll suffer forever. I mean, it's the most horrendous kind of oppression that all of us in the West got stuck with in one form or another, some worse than others. Some extremely fundamentalist, and others a little bit more of the reformed model. But nonetheless, we all kind of got stuck with this idea of God as this other. And who was wrathful, jealous, petty. I mean, it's not a really nice picture. Yahweh was not a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but still, because it is our culture, it'd be nice to just kind of reject it out of hand, but you can't, because it's been enculturated in you. It's in your nervous system. Right? These are so many references we use, metaphors and similes we use in everyday life, but that's where they came from, right?
Yeah.
So instead, my approach is, well, let's take a look at it as mythological literature. We can redeem it, which is a much better way to transform yourself for one that's afraid of God, that one feels at one with God. The whole definition of God changes, which is, of course, what the life of Christ is about. Christ, that was the whole point, that he represented a different God. It was a God who was love. It was not the wrathful warrior who demanded a sacrifice. It was pure love. And it got him killed, right? At least as far as the story goes. We don't really know what happened. He certainly didn't make him popular with the powers that be. He was a bit of a rebel from what is known about him. But the God he presented was not the God of the Jews.
Yes.
It got pushed back together again to try to make a wrathful God, to try to create a narrative that would keep people suppressed. That was all it was for.
I'm so glad that came around, because it really, right from the beginning, it was around that safety. And I love that you use the word authority, that they've tried to take these stories and use them into authority. And so I am inviting everybody right now to do exactly this. I love that you said this. If you would like some clarity, and you would like to not simply reject the stories, not reject the Bible, reject that, but to redeem it. And I think that was the most important thing that made my heart feel good. It was like, okay, I'm not going to cover it up or hide it or throw in the garbage or have these ego judgments about it. Like, no, you're not good enough for me. Let's redeem it. Let's find the message. I love how you do this, GP. You do it so beautifully and so with compassion, and with nobody's wrong when they hear you. So I'm going to send everybody right now to go to the link. We'll go to gpwalsh.com/mystic. So that's for Christian Mystic. And you can get your ticket there. It's $97. And what that does is you're going to be able to have an interactive time with BP tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. But then you'll also get, you've run this one before, this event before, so you're going to get the replay of that. You will get the replay of this actually happening as well. And I believe access, yes, to all the audios. So this is just, it's just so, it feels so good to redeem and not to reject. And so I love that. Reject, reflect. We're not rejecting, we're redeeming, and we're reflecting. There we go.
Reflecting, yes.
Yes.
Well, the stories, when they're really seen, are a reflection of that light. They reveal the true nature of the light, which is what they're supposed to do. As the life of Christ symbolized, he represented the light. And he was called the light of the world, right? For that reason, he was reflecting it. It shone through him, because there was no ego there to get in the way. So it was, the pure light was shining through. And we saw, and that's what it means when he said, "When you've seen me, you have seen the Father," because there wasn't a sense of two in him. His view is much more of the Eastern, where God was immanent in creation, not separate from it.
Absolutely beautiful. Well, everybody, let's reveal your true nature. So you can either come to us at gpwalsh.com/mystic to get your ticket for tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, or join us next week on The Flow of Enlightenment. Thank you, GP, so much. It's always wonderful.
See you, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.